In Exodus 34, verses 29 to 35, it says, "When Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hands, he was not aware that his face was radiant, because he had spoken with the Lord. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them. So Aaron and all the leaders of the community came back to him, and he spoke to them. Afterward, all the Israelites came near him, and he gave them all the commands the Lord had given him on Mount Sinai. When Moses finished speaking to them, he put a veil over his face. But whenever he entered the Lord's presence to speak with him, he removed the veil until he came out. And when he came out and told the Israelites what he had been commanded, they saw that his face was radiant. Then Moses would put the veil back over his face until he went in to speak with the Lord." So basically, Moses spent time on this mountain with God, and really any of his time with God, when he was face to face speaking with the Lord, his face was radiant. I wonder if anyone has ever read this in the Bible and not stopped and said, I wonder what that was like. I wonder how amazing it would be to be in the presence of the Lord. I felt like I've been a lot more invested in my relationship with God, which has affected my attitude, my thoughts, my actions. It's almost been this chain reaction where prioritizing God in prayer and in reading of the Word has translated to living a life that prioritizes God. We talk about wanting to know God, wanting more of Him, but are we spending time with Him or just talking about it? My problem is that in all of my years of following God, I suffer along with many of you where I get focused on the mountaintop experience. I spend time with God, maybe at a spiritual awakening weekend or a retreat, and it's incredible. Then I come down off the mountain with this radiant face, but I am not prepared to pursue this deep face-to-face with God unless the world is shut away from me, unless I am in this perfect environment that facilitates this spiritual connection. I've had lulls in my relationships in the past. I'm speaking about my friendships where, as a result of spending time away from a friend, I've lost touch and fallen out of contact. Now, depending on the friend, I can be really good at making sure contact happens, spamming with messages or whatever, or sacrificing even sleep or my own needs and selfish desires in order to ensure that I'm in contact. Having said that, I have the other category of friends as well, where we get along and we like each other, but I won't work too hard to be in their presence. An occupational hazard is seeing each other, meaning as I'm working, it is just in my line of work that I will see these people. Spending time in a work or social setting is not so much by choice or about sacrifice, but it's more like because it's unavoidable. So then I bring this to a Christian level. As an occupational hazard, I am forced to spend time speaking with God for ministry reasons, strength, dependence, and wisdom. However, when I have the choice, is Jesus the one I choose? Psalm chapter 84, verses 1 to 2 says, "How lovely are your dwelling places, O Lord of hosts. My soul, my life, longs for and greatly desires the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh sing for joy to the living God." And it continues in verse 10 and says, "For a day in your courts is better than 1,000 anywhere else. I would rather stand as a doorkeeper at the threshold of the house of my God than to live at ease in the tent of wickedness." The psalmist recognizes and prioritizes the relationship of spending time with God. It goes beyond looking at Moses' face and recognizing that he's been in the presence of the Lord, and it goes to a place where you don't want to just look at Moses' face. You don't want to just look at Pastor Ron's face or Nathan's face or Michael's face. You want your face to be like that. You want that radiance of being in the presence of God. So ask yourself this question: are you happy with just the once in a while mountaintop experience? Or do you want more from your relationship with God? Then I want you to ask yourself, what am I willing to do to experience a closeness with God? Will I wait for the Sunday mornings when I have no choice but to meet with God? That's the designated time. Or maybe it's the once a week prayer meeting, or maybe it's the once a Friday youth meeting. Or will you prioritize time with God whenever, moving things around, sacrificing things, because the priority in your life is spending time with God, seeking His face, and setting aside time with God as a priority in your life, which results in your actions being affected by your own face becoming as radiant as Moses was. Have a good one.